I've been waiting a long time to see this menu screen. At least on my computer at home anyway. If you're a bit confused, this is Project Cars, otherwise standing for Community Assisted Racing Simulator. Slightly Mad Studios. They came from the Need for Speed Shift series, and this is where they now are. You probably have a pretty good heads up on that anyway, though. There's been plenty of news about it this week, since there isn't anything else coming out this week. And also, Project Cars has been kind of, a lot of people have been waiting for it for a long while. Well, before we go into more of the story about that, though, let's go and check out the options first. And so you can all criticize me, which I'm entirely okay with. Actually, we'll do the visuals first, and we'll go back to the gameplay. So, terms of options for PC. You've got your visual effects, your bloom, your haze, your specular radiance, your raindrops, vignettes, screen dirt, all of that post-processing. I've turned down the filtering here just slightly, only because for recording I have to disable SLI because SLI doesn't play particularly well with Open Broadcaster software, particularly if you're not using NVENC, which is the onboard encoder of the NVIDIA cards. So I've turned it down just a bit to maintain performance, but usually that's at 8 times, and the rest of this is... So this was the automated performance settings for my rig, which is a dual GTX 780, 32GB, i7 4770K, so that gives you data on that. And I haven't had any performance drops in game whatsoever, and it's been largely trouble-free most of the time. I've had... Most of the crashes I've had have actually only been tonight, and that's been related to recording issues. I've just upgraded my drivers though, so that should be alright. There are some hardware if you're running an Oculus Rift or for Project Morpheus for PS4. And it's worth noting this is on the PC version, but you do get a lot of these options on PS4 and Xbox One. I had a play of the PS4 build a couple of months ago, back when it was, we were still expecting Project Cars to come out around March, and not all of this, but a surprising amount, including some of the texture filtering, the details, that was in the PS4 as well. So that was quite good to see. We'll go back to gameplay, and I'll open it up now so you can see what everything is. Surprise! I've got assists on. I'm actually not a sim racer, and it's kind of odd that I've been so excited for this game. Part of the reason is twofold. The first reason, it's actually been incredibly hard to get access to this game at all, because unlike a lot of other crowdfunded projects these days, you couldn't buy your way into beta access after the campaign had closed down. And that's because Slightly Mad Studios, when they went to do their World of Mass Development funding style, it was more than just a funding program. It was an investment scheme where they promised the cost of the game back to backers and more, depending on the level tiers of investment that there were. But in December 2012, the Financial Services Authority, I think I've got that right, it's the British financial regulator, they had a look at this and said, oh, that's an investment scheme, is it? Do you guys have an investment license? That's basically how it went, and to avoid further trouble, Slightly Mad Studios shut it down. They did actually announce part one of the nice scoop that we got yesterday, and I say yesterday because by the time this video goes live on YouTube, it'll be 6 or just after 6 o'clock on Wednesday night, the day before Project Cars comes out. And Ian Bell, which is the founder of Slightly Mad, he said that we're going to use a new form so that they don't run into trouble with the financial regulator again. And if people do want to invest $50,000 or more like last time, then they can talk to him directly and go down that route. We've got on-screen guides and display here. You can actually rotate through most of this using the D-pad in game, and we'll see a bit of that. But as to my interest in this personally, I'll show you the control scheme as well. Fairly simple, Curse was there. There's no sort of DRS, but that's because this isn't Formula 1, even though you have Formula A. Configuration, and you get this all of these options will be available on console as well, and you get more options if you're using a wheel too. So your sensitivity and dead zones for the whole lot. It's worth pointing out, the game is actually quite twitchy on the controller. I tend to like that only because most of my experience is going to be with the gamepad. I was actually offered a Thrustmaster wheel to review this game with, and my initial experiences doing the preview builds was that Project Cars was very much a wheel first game, but a wheel is not conducive to everybody's living conditions. I don't own a wheel on a regular basis. A lot of the games I play have nothing to do with racing, so a wheel was it would be more like a very strange ornament in my house. So I opted not to go down that route, especially because I think if you're going to have a wheel, then you need to, first of all, you need to have experience with wheels, you need to know how to set them up, then you need to know how to set them up in relation to the game. That's a whole lot of added experience that I don't have. And there's also the fact that Project Cars is aiming at people like me, people who like racing games that have something that could sink their teeth into. Very much the case of like a Forza or a Gran Turismo, where they have that sort of career mode where you could get involved. And I do like that. There's a huge fascination about this for me, because I can't physically drive a car in real life. And I actually get massively anxious behind the wheel. My family was we were all in a car accident when I was very little. I was sitting behind my brother, and he was in the passenger side, and a car came and effectively T-boned him. Magically everybody was okay, but it's sort of, I can't even back a car out of a driveway now. I don't even like holding when a driver wants to do something and they say like, hold the wheel for me. I physically shake when I want to do that. I sit in a passenger seat and I get nervous when visibly, uncontrollably nervous if the car starts to go too fast. But racing games is kind of a wonderful outlet for me because I don't have any of those issues, and also I can sit and enjoy the visuals that I would never be able to appreciate in real life. So the career mode is one of the big appeals to me, and this is the opening of what you see. I've gone through a couple of seasons already, and as we'll go here, we can see various different things. So you've got your LMP3 semi-pro cups, you've got endurance championships, you've got go-karts, you've got, higher sprint clubs, rookie cups. This one is going to be truck day, and what do we got? Oh, we'll go into, I have to go into the race actually. So I was trying to do recordings before and they kept crashing, and it was making for some horrible experiences. But usually I've been going through, as you can see, you saw the settings there is essentially like 37%, which equates to about 10 minutes for the practice and qualifying each, and 3 laps. Now this is a full 30 car grid race, and you can see here you've got a whole lot of different cars. Not all of them are going to actually be in the same class, and that's one of the nice things going through the career mode is you do have these alternate sort of races behind, besides everyone's just in the same class. Now I'll see if I can get this right, and yep. Now, I'm not very good at this track. This first corner actually particularly really screws. And I find it quite slippery and difficult to manage even in real life. Oh, not in real life, sorry. I mean in really forgiving conditions. And it's actually great for one of the good things is that the AI has been a lot more reasonable in these first few turns than what I remember, and I've just been slightly bumped off there. Now it's kind of interesting is this is actually not the multi-car experience that I thought it would be. It's just 30 cars on Brands Hatch, which seems massively ridiculous for a course that has 9 turns, is basically like 2.5, maybe 3 kilometers long. But it is nice. Brands Hatch is familiar to a lot of people. If you played F1 2013 and in the classic mode, you would have run through Brands Hatch there, and it's kind of a staple of a lot of racing games. I seem to remember actually Need for Speed Shift, that very first race that you do actually features Brands Hatch. So, and even though I've got the full stability control and everything on. The car is quite slippery. I'm trying to be quite gentle here. I'm using an Xbox One controller. I don't know if it would have changed if it had actually recognized my PlayStation 4 controller in the menu there. Didn't actually pick mine up. I typically use the DS4 on PC for a lot of different things, but on racing games, I tend to prefer the Xbox One controller because the triggers are much larger, and also because thanks to the driver support, you get much better force feed. Oh, that Adam's going to clean me up. A second. I can just think maybe I might not be. I was doing a multiplayer session earlier actually, and netcode was surprisingly good. Oh, I've overshot that corner again, and oh god. And I've gotten way too used to just very gently squeezing the throttle after you come off the brake, which when you you're doing go-karts and the like with full stability controls and so forth, is not typically something that you need to do. You can just go hard on brake and then you can just go back hard on the throttle. It's not ideal. I mean, you should be a bit better than that, especially if you have any ambitions to move up in the racing world. Boy, I didn't quite nail that, but see if I can at least get this last lap right without skidding. You can see in the top right there we've got like the section times, which is nice. For some reason the sound is being very sketchy, and I'm just going to put that down to maybe some issues it's having. It doesn't particularly like oh dear, I've spun out. There may be some compatibility issues with Open Broadcast software, which is what I used to do most of my recordings, and I don't know if using the Shadowplay would, or at least MVenc would resolve that, but for now I'll just have to work through it. But I can say that in terms of crashes, in terms of bugs, I have experienced very few in my experience. God, that corner is, I just am not even remotely close to even getting that. We'll show some of the other camera modes here. I'm as an arcade racer, I'm oh god, that's just no, did not judge that at all. We'll go to the hood cam here, and this will actually let us appreciate the pitter patter of the rain just a little bit more. One of the things that will become evident, oh Jesus, this is embarrassing, by tomorrow, there is a day one patch that's been put out, and everyone will be able to get it if you're preloading on Steam. And one of the things that's actually listed in the patch notes, I've got some of them written down, I can't look at my book now, but one of the things it does include is better rain effects. And we will check out, we'll go into a solo race later on, and you can actually have up to 3 weather slots for the race, and you can change the level of progression of how much. That audio bug is really annoying. I can only really emphasize that it's only happened when I've tried to do a recording, so my sincere apologies for that. I just it shouldn't come through too loud on your end, but it's kind of giving me the shits here. Oh god, stay on the track, stay on the track. I will be glad to be done with Brands Hatch. No, it's a popular track, but it's never quite been a favourite of mine. And maybe, I suppose, just because that first corner is just not something I've been able to continue and forget that ever existed. But the career mode has been quite good. You do start out with go-karts. Shame, yes, it was shameful. I finished last. And then you work your way all the way up. There is a where is it? See, oh, not in the garage. Sorry. Oh, we'll check it out here. This is where you can select a car of any kind. You know, open wheels, Cosworths, and you can create a new setup specifically for that car. And you've got a bit of basics here, and you can use the triggers. So it's bumpers and triggers to go through these menus. And you can change all the alignment, the suspension, the dampers, and if you know, especially if you come from like F1 or GT, I think the options are far more substantial than what you would be accustomed to. If you come from, say, perhaps iRacing, Assetto Corsa, neither game I have any experience with. I'm not a sim racer. I don't own a wheel that's not my wheelhouse, for lack of a better phrase. I can't give you any information on that, but here you've got like a summary of all the different of everything at a nice breakdown, which is kind of good, I suppose. You can just like left and right will just trigger the downforce here. And we can see here in my profile. Now it says only sort of, and it's kind of annoying that it's by a 100 metric system, so not sort of hours should be, you know, sort of 58 and 660 would be like 7 hours. That seems for some reason Slightly Mad didn't go with that. But Steam says I've actually played like 13 hours by this point, so I'm not entirely sure where the difference is. I know I haven't spent that much time in menus, but maybe it only counts time that's actually time logged on the track. So, you know, not time sitting in the pit lane, not time sitting in the pre and the post-game menus and that sort of thing. But you can see the amount of races, because I went through initially when you go through the karting, as you win races, you unlock and you get invitations to race in other cups. So you've got the open wheels, the roads, GTs, and so on and so forth. And you can see my wins there. Very minimal. Here is the sort of the career part of it where you get the goals. So win, you start in Tier A, which is go-karting, and win the LMP1 World Championship within 10 seasons. I think I'm in my 3rd season now, actually. And once you do those, you go and unlock all of those different tiers. You can go for, say, like the defending champ, or you can go for the Triple Crown. Accolades. So I was a Kart 1 champion, yay. Different things that you unlock, invitations. So you can see lots of different things that I've had unlocked. And we've got like sort of highlights here. I'll actually go through one of them. Go to the Renault one. Give you an idea, and also show you a little bit, you know, one of those multi-category races that I was in, as opposed to that one there, which was just a cluster. And you can finish the rest of that sentence. But the replay functionality, it's a bit threadbare, but anyway, you do have your options here. So this is of my my car here, and we'll cycle through the different modes. And you can see there, as you've got, like, as it goes through, this is the helmet cam, so you can see it loses a bit of depth of field. We've got, but even in the replay mode, see, I can turn. Now, I wasn't turning in the actual replay, but I can turn now, and I can have a look at all the different details of the car. Unfortunately, I can't seem to look behind, but I can in this one. I think it's just a little bit of a drifting in there. God, that took that corner wide. Can remove the replay and bring it back up. So there's that. Basic, but it's in there, which is nice, and a lot of people will appreciate that. Let's have a look at some of the other things here. Now, solo. Now here's all of the circuits. Azure Coast is one of the point-to-point ones. Azure Circuit, so you know, is Monaco. There's a licensing thing there. You know what Bathurst is. Chill, we'll check that out later. Brands Hatch, we were just on there, but you've got other ones. The California Highway, again. These California Highway and Azure Coast, so it's worth noting now, not all of the tracks here are laser scanned. Some of them are like California Highway, which is they're done, I think it was from GPS data, Google Maps, or satellite imagery, I believe is the better way, better phrasing for that. But you do have a lot of proper tracks. So you've got Catalunya, which this weekend I think is where the F1 is. Spa, other ones, Dubai Autodrome, a whole bunch of karting circuits, Hockenheim, which isn't in F1 this year, because Germany's out of money for Formula One racing, at least on the hosting side, and also because McLaren wasn't allowed to prop them up, which is kind of probably not a bad thing in the long run. Laguna Seca, the Le Mans, of course, where you can do your endurance races. It was a big feature in the launch trailer, actually. The Nürburgring and all of the various sort of cut-off parts of that. Can't even pronounce that. Alton Park, Sakito in Japan, Silverstone, which is obviously in Britain, and Sonoma. I think Sonoma's in the US. Yeah, I do want to say it's in the US. And other ones like Willow Springs, Alder, and Zhuhai, which is, I think, is that meant to be Shanghai? And yeah, it is China. It doesn't look like the typical China circuit, though. No, at least not the F1 that I remember. Anyway, we will go and we'll check out Bathurst, and we'll have a bit of fun here. We'll put on some. I'm gonna go in a slow car. I'm only gonna do something I can control a bit better. No, actually, bugger it. Let's just go all out. What was something I raced just recently? Ford Mustang's quite fun. There's a lot of different options here. You've got obviously the Formula A. Bugger it. Let's just go to Formula A. And we'll just change it. So it is, we'll keep them in the same class. We'll keep 2. And I shouldn't be using the mouse because that's kind of not necessary. Ooh. Turn all of that off. Grid position, ace, and conditions. So here's a fun part. So now the cool one is real weather. So what you can do is you can pick fixed weather, and you can pick it from a particular race date or a custom one, and it will download the weather data from that time and that day, so you can recreate the race weather from a particular event. Bathurst last year, or maybe Bathurst 20 years ago, or if you want to do Monaco when it was completely nuts, or whatever. So in this one, we'll go 2 weather slots, and we'll have the progression be at about ×10, and we will transition from light clouds to we'll go to fog with rain, and we'll make it early in the morning. We'll make the time progression about 30 speed. I'll keep it Formula A. Probably just knock it down a bit. And you can have, you can imagine some of the possibilities you could have with this. It could get pretty crazy. And for fun, I'll change it to, I think we'll go Catalunya. It's quite like that track. But we'll just sit and enjoy the beauty of this. I'm just going to floor it, because bugger it. Because why not? And I'll switch to the view that I quite like. I never liked this view in F1 proper, but for some reason, my god, I do like it in this one. Oh god, this is such a pretty game. And also, as you can tell, I have bugger all knowledge of the F1 car, because I am braking way too early, and I also don't know Bathurst that well, because I'm not actually a petrol head. Oh god. I'm fairly sure I'm being rammed like all hell by the AI, but, you know, whatever. Fairly sure someone, I seem to remember there was a Twitter account. Someone was trying to get F1 cars on the mountain, or at least at Bathurst. I don't know if it was Mount Panorama, and that's just the extent of my racing knowledge there. But they were trying to get F1 cars, at least in Australia, to celebrate the 100th or 50th or some anniversary of some description. As we can see here now, the progression's starting to kick in. I'm going to change to this view, which is kind of nice. I'm going to cut that a bit wide, but thankfully I know better than to try and brake and turn at the same time, so which is always a good thing to learn. Oh god, don't be doing that. It's kind of hard to see actually when you're doing these F1 cars. You don't get the advantage of seeing the brake lights, or not F1, I should say Formula. And this is becoming really slippery now. I'm gonna have to sort of taper off a bit. I don't think I'm gonna end up oh god. And these tyres are not meant to be in the wet at all, I don't think. They do look like they have actually a fair amount of grip. Yeah, they look like the grip is actually not too bad for the wet. So maybe they are properly custom timed. Now for fun, the helmet view. Let's see, I can look around with the right stick there. Oh my god, this game is pretty. Oh god, that's so disorienting. Oh no, you're joking. Literally in the last corner. Oh, that's all kind of balls. Whoa. That engine noise when you go to the third camera is pretty extreme. So, that's what Bathurst is like. And I mean, obviously I'm not going to do an entire race weekend in front of you, but you can get some kind of picture of how gorgeous this game starts to look. Now, oh, and you can, this is the thing, you can actually load sort of different careers and things here. So here's the load, so you can see mine. If you want to start a new one, you can do that with there. Free practice is obviously just practice. You can go around. Ooh. Temptation to do Monaco in the absolute beltering thunderstorm is kind of jealous. But, well, actually, before we do that, we'll take a look at the online options now. There's only a couple of online games. That's not a huge surprise considering, you know, this game isn't actually officially out yet. And there are not that many people playing in Australia for obvious reasons, especially at this time of hour. You can create your own.
You can create your own online race weekend. Select your favorite car and track combination, along with the conditions, sessions, and rules you would like to enforce. Then open it up for others from around the world to start joining.
Pretty simple. And you can even go and you can make, if you want to play around with the prototypes. So, okay, so just as I quickly scroll through. Now it's kind of weird here, like, green, I'm using an Xbox controller, so obviously green is meant to, the green button next to the car select on the left hand side there is meant to be the A button. View info is actually X, but it never actually just says X, it's just a blue button, and that could throw a lot of people, and obviously my garage is Y, and you can go and create your setups and do all the rest of it if you want to. Can't rotate the camera in this mode, which is a little bit disappointing, but you can. And there is that small loading screen as you sort of shift one car in and out for another. But like I said, you have the slightly more options here when you're creating an online play. So you can choose for a rolling start if you want full race weekend with 2 practices and qualifying and warm up as well. And you can go change car class, and if you want everyone to be the all identical car, you can fill it with AI opponents. So if you only have 4 or 5 and you want to have a few AI in there, which was the multiplayer sessions that Bandai Namco organized, sort of, and they were just sort of roughly, you know, hey everyone, let's, you know, they join a lobby, play some games kind of thing. We had some without AI opponents, we had some with AI, and it was fine. It didn't seem to affect things. I think most of Now, the interesting thing is they did actually say to us that there would be dedicated servers, and at the time of doing this recording, I don't have those yet, but I'm told they'll will be provided with those before the video goes up tomorrow. So if that is the case, I'll put a little note either in the comments or in the sort of body of the post when this video goes up, so that you have at least that kind of knowledge. But otherwise, the lobbies seem to be mostly peer-to-peer, so the performance of the AI cars is going to be obviously dependent on everyone's PCs and so forth. Privacy, private, public, friends only, set a password, set a lobby name, you know, straightforward business. Again, the conditions, same deals here, and whether you want to force realistic driving aids or not. Do you want to auto start the engine? Can you allow for mechanical failures, that sort of thing? In one of our games, someone actually had they did actually have their ignition fail, and they had to start it. They were using a wheel, so they had it mapped, and they just, you know, restarted their engine on the grid, which is kind of cool. And you can set flags and penalties on and off. There doesn't seem to be like sort of a minimal or a maximum kind of setting for that, which could be a bit of an issue for online play, because I know with F1 in particular, there have been sometimes the penalties have been a bit too egregious, or a bit too minimalist, or lenient, I suppose is a better word. Community events is going to be an interesting one. So essentially, most of these were full a few days ago, but the idea is essentially, you know, event leaderboards that, you know, test this particular car on this particular track, and everyone goes for it, and you can actually then go and fight against. So we can't see the scores here, and that seems to be a change that's been brought out in the last day or so. I wonder if that... No, I have no entry on this leaderboard. But yeah, you could bring up a whole list of everyone's performances, and you could say, oh, okay, I want to race against that ghost, and then you go and you have a crack at it. I think there might actually... no, it doesn't seem to... Yeah, you have to do that through the driver network. So when the game goes live, that'll be available. Can load up the leaderboards here for, again, everywhere, every vehicle. And here you go. So if I click on something there, you can just go and it loads up that person's profile. Pretty simple. And you can see there my sessions, and it's actually 12 hours. Oh my god, I had that wrong. But yeah, so you can see what control scheme people are using, what their times are, what the splits are between them, and all that sort of stuff. Now, quick random, that's just, we'll just go and find you a quick online game. So it's a matchmaking, so, you know, sort of cross your fingers and pray for that sort of one. We're not going to do that. Mostly because we sit here and wait long enough. They're not private lobbies, but the length is long, and also it's getting a bit late. So what we will do though is let's go nuts. Let's see this game. This game is meant to be pretty. Let's see how pretty it can get. I want one slot And I want it to be raining like it was the other week. Well, 12 opponents seems about right. I did say Monza, Monaco, sorry, but Monaco is going to be a bit of a nightmare, so I think what I might go for No, you know what? Bugger it. Bugger it. It's pretty. It is one of the most gorgeous tracks around. Actually, we'll do two. So I'll do Azure Circuit for as long as I can tolerate it. I'll try and do it in something that actually won't be completely a complete nightmare. We'll try Formula C for a change. And then we'll go to one of the point-to-point circuits, which are sort of kind of, I suppose it's the Forza tracks, if you will. And this big. Now, I did say before, actually.
Let's take some people off the line into the first corner. Remember, the first lap is our best chance to make up some places.
Oh. Oh, God. Oh, God. And I'm just going to mostly focus on not crashing. It's good to see that the AI over the time has been tuned to be a little more reasonable. One of the things that we were advised of is the day one patch, which you will get when you preload, which I believe will be available by the time you can watch this video, is that the AI will behave more reasonably in the wet. Oh, that was a rain pop in from hell. I might actually just be happy just to go around and let the AI pass me, because I'm obviously not trying to win, but we do want to see things at their prettiest. Oh. That's the fake pit lane. Well, not the fake pit lane, it's just one that looks like I could fit in. And the performance of this isn't bad. Seems to be just dropping just a smidgen. I don't have SLI enabled at the moment, obviously, like I was mentioning before. But calming around. Yes. Finishing a lap of Monaco without just completely face planting. Oh god, that's too hard. That's too hard. Now, bugger it. Let's drive down here. Where does this go? That shit. That goes nowhere. Oh well. Did I actually leave something? I did too. Alright. So that's what it looks like in a thunderstorm. For fun, actually, we'll see. We'll put the damage model all the way up and we'll just see if we can observe the cars going nuts. We'll go to California Highway. We'll go to a full one. And you want a road car for this, so good old Evo. Evo seems appropriate. Now, rolling start seems about right. But what we'll actually do is we'll go into my full damage. And you can have off mechanical failures, you know, all that sort of thing. I'm going to leave ABS stability and traction on because, you know, we're just mucking around, so. 2 laps is irrelevant because it's point to point. It's a highway course. But this is one of the things. If you don't want to go through one of the many tracks or one of the many variations of the many tracks, this is something you can look towards. Oh, I forgot I had it raining on this as well. Ugh, that's going to be a problem. Just hold throttle. I think with this I'm going to want the dash cam. It's going to make my life infinitely more easy. Lap time invalidated. Well, we've got 109 turns. It doesn't really matter, right? Going. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. So the real question that sort of needs to be asked, and I'm not equipped to answer it because I just simply don't have that experience. Even though, as much as I wanted this game, there is an element of it that is quite evidently not for someone like me. And that is how much of... This game is quite literally... Project Cars is an acronym for Racing Simulator. What I'm doing is not even remotely close to it. It's simulating something. It's not simulating the real world of motorsport. But the point is that you can make it. You can turn on all the settings. You can have the difficulty. You can have the tracks. And the tracks, most of the tracks are the laser scan. You can have that experience. That's what they're selling. And you can have that on consoles as well, which is... I say it's a first sort of time, but I mean, realistically, it's more... It's a competitor to Gran Turismo in that sense. And I don't think you would put Forza in the same category. Oh god, gotta get off the railing. How good a sim racer is Project Cars? And I have no idea, and I think that's a kind of... Slightly Mad Studios are quite adamant that they're going to continue supporting the community, and I think their plans to go ahead with a sequel so early are kind of evident of that. I know a lot of people are actually quite angry and they say, why aren't you using the profits from Project Cars already to fund the next stage of development? And I think I understand the outrage there. People feel like they're being cheated and say like, hey, you haven't sold this game yet and yet you're already planning to make us pay for another one. But I think that there comes a point in a game's lifetime when, especially from the project manager perspective, where it is you are effectively done with it. The game may not be finished, but in terms of the broad strokes, in terms of achieving the things that you wanted to achieve, you move on. And for a long time, I feel like, ever since the March release date came out, which was obviously has been bumped now into May, but I feel like ever since they nailed that down, Project Cars had reached that point. Slightly Mad had gone, okay, we know what this game, now we've got this down, we've got this model, they're still working on the handling, the force feedback, I don't want to say issues because again that's not my expertise, but a lot of people have complained about that on the forums. There've been quite a few people on games.on.net in particular who have access, who have wheels, who are iRacing fans, or maybe not iRacing fans, but certainly sim racers, and who have said, of course it has a better force feedback model. And I haven't seen any feedback from people that I've spoken to, people that are in the beta beforehand, and people that have been playing it, that situation has changed a great deal. And the other problem is, and not the problem, but in terms of people's concerns over the handling model, did it feel quite right? I can only answer from my perspective in that this feels much more enjoyable now than in what it did when I was playing it with the controller a few months back. And that may all be immaterial because, I mean, if you're the kind of person you want to do, full race leagues, you want to get really dive really deep into this community of racing that Slightly Mad wants to establish. Yeah, it's actually, I'm somehow, I don't know if it's Evo or I can actually start to feel it pulling to the left quite a bit. I'm not doing completely atrociously in this one. Well, there's nothing like correcting something that leans to the left by smashing the right, I suppose. Oh god, oh god. I wonder how bad the car damage is. That's not good. I don't want that mode. Ugh. I don't want to look at that either. So yeah, that aspect of it is very much an unknown, and we won't know. A lot like many games, like you say the same thing with Evolve. You could say the same thing, I suppose, with when Blood Bowl 2 comes out towards the end of May. You know, in terms of what are the legs going to be? I think I don't know, it's a bit unfair to maybe put Project Cars in the same sort of sentence, but I mean, the comparison, the parallel is rather that, oh god, you can see how I'm just like pulling this back and it's basically going sideways the entire time. That damage is really paying for that now. The comparison is, you know, how long will the multiplayer community stay around? How much support will it get? And the answer is we don't know. Obviously, Slightly Mad. I've got a mechanical fault. That's rubbish. Kind of felt like I had one already, or maybe it was just a handling error. But Slightly Mad Studios knows, and they're pretty aware that they are onto a thing now. They're onto they have got a passionate community. They've got a funding model that worked for them and worked quite well. You have to keep in mind, even though that they shut down the campaign, Slightly Mad were able to raise several $1 million from the community on top of the funding that they put in themselves. And I think the end result of Project Cars, after all the delays and after everything else, I think is going to be enough to get them the funds to start another project. And people do turn around and ask, we come back to that question, why, you know, should we be angrier at Slightly Mad Studios, you know, should they be waiting? And I think the reality is, this is how game development works. From a project manager perspective, you get to a certain point where it is no longer about the broad strokes. It's just becomes about bug fixing, netcode testing, you know, compatibility, pushing through, you know, getting things approved on consoles, you know, making sure, you know, all your driver compatibility is up to scratch. You know, you're supporting all the different screens, and, you know, people with AMD cards are not going to have problems, and SLI support is going to be fine. And particularly in something like Project Cars case, you know, how's your support for, you know, tri-monitor setups? What's your support for your multiple controllers? Actually, another interesting part of that day one patch they noticed, and I apologize for the amount of running I'm now doing into sides, but I think you can probably appreciate, like, I am absolutely losing control of this car right now. Yeah, so one of the things that added in the day one patch was a Fanatec. That was an interesting, what the hell happened there? It was almost like the text just sort of disappeared. The Fanatec's wheels, which my knowledge of them is that they're extremely good. I've had the opportunity one time to play with, do a bit of F1 with one at a trade show a couple of years back, and they're very nice pieces of tech. And I would have thought that support for Fanatec wheels would have been in, well, you know, in the review build, let alone well before then. But that's something that's going to be patched in on day one. Among other things, you know, they're talking about supercarts. You know, we'll just end that there because, you know, I'm not getting to the end of that track. So here's what I got written down. Better AI in the wet, better rain effects, a randomized start timer, which is kind of fun. The supercarts are less bouncy. AI is better as the season goes on. There is better sampling of Xbox One pad for more responsiveness. And like I said, Fanatec will support. And there's a whole bunch of other things that I couldn't fit down on my little notepad at the time. But yeah, in terms of support, I think, Project Cars is going to have quite a lot of legs. And I think it's fair to say that this is one of the big titles of this year. And this will be supported very much like a big community title with a big expectation for multiplayer will be. Now, that may not be enough for sim racers. It may just lack the elements that they need. And I can't tell you after playing this whether it does or it doesn't. All I can tell you is that someone who can't drive cars in real life, who is physically or perhaps mentally or some combination of, maybe not mentally, psychologically might be a better word for it, some combination of both, who has a fascination with racing games from time to time, at least from the arcade, from the thrill, from that element of it. I look at this game as a replacement. For me, this is a replacement for Forza and Gran Turismo. It provides that entry point where I can go and say, oh, okay, I want to do all of these different races. This is something I can work through in much like a season mode in FIFA, or playing a tennis game, or some other kind of sports where I can work my way from the ground up. Project Cars has a very good model to allow that to happen. And if they nail the top end of it, they nail that competition end. And I have a good, at the very least, I have good hopes for the networking side of things, because my experience was completely satisfactory. I haven't tried racing anyone outside of Australia, and I haven't tried 16 or 20 or 30 car lobbies because that wasn't an option available to me at the time. But that is something I'll be doing in the coming days. But from, racing with AI, racing without AI, it wasn't, as long as someone isn't trying to watch YouTube and download Game of Thrones at the same time as they're hosting, it's perfectly fine. It was perfectly playable. Didn't have any rubber banding. I was more focused on the racing. I didn't think that somebody was teleporting into me. I had fun. And I've been having fun throughout my time with Project Cars. I've been waiting a long time for this game. And I don't know how much of that plays into how much enjoyment I have had. But if you're on the same level as me, you will enjoy this game. I feel quite comfortable in saying that. As for everyone else, if you're looking for something more, if you're looking for that simulation experience, that's something I'm going to have to... I want to try and discover at least a small element of that, or at least, spend some time with people who have more of a experience of that than I do. But for me, and for only me, the years were worth it. I would have happily paid for this game at many, many points in the last 2 years. I am still strongly considering, even though I'm playing on a press build now, and usually the case with these things is, it's not like you have to return them like a hardware product. I'm considering just maybe going out and somehow getting another account so I can give my money to the developers, because this is the experience that I want. And if you're on the same page, you're going to have fun. I can't say anything more than that. So that's it from me. It's been fun. It's been a long video, and this has actually been a long night for me. This is quite difficult to get working. So I hope you appreciate it. And again, I apologise for my substandard weather handling skills and handling in general of motorsport. But this has been Project Cars. It'll be available on Thursday for PC, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. Keep a note, it'll be 900p on Xbox One, 1080p on PS4. There will be I'm still kind of skeptical. There will be a Wii U version. Nobody knows when. I don't think anybody cares, really, to be honest. I don't think you buy a Wii U for Project Cars, but, maybe if you have one, it'll be something nice to have. But that's it. It's Slightly Mad Studios, and that's it from me.